We talked before about religion. Christianity is like the battlefield of the culture war, and you were talking about demonism and Satanism creeping into the culture in a lot of ways. I think one of the problems with Christianity is that it encourages people to be subservient to a church, and then therefore subconsciously they become subservient to a government. Like, why aren't they saying no?
Well, a man has as many masters as he does vices, and the reality is you're a slave to something, and if you choose to be a slave to God as opposed to the government, you will be the most difficult possible man to conquer.
But it's the way they define God. You got to be aware that they're
we
not
didn't define
manipulating
God.
you.
He told us who he was.
I think, Ian.
I agree.
But I don't disagree with Ian's point. But I think it would have to be refined in that there are people who masquerade, pretend, or don't truly understand, and would use faith to manipulate others. I mean, we see this in government, especially when Democrats claim to be the real Christians, but then say the church is in favor of, say, abortion or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm speaking from a thoroughly Protestant perspective. But I don't see, my reading of Christianity, just like the text, does not at all indicate loyalty to a church. It indicates fealty to God.
Yes.
And so, first of all, it's not incompatible with being a citizen at all. I think Christians make the best citizens, actually, and you can absolutely support your government and support your God. But if it comes down to it, if your government is actively opposing God, you really do have to make a choice between those two masters.
And I'll make a quick point. Sorry, Charlie. I'll make a quick point and shout out our good friend Bill Maher, because it's a point I've made frequently that whether Bill acknowledges it or not, as an atheist, his moral framework is built on Judeo-Christian values this country was founded on.
Does he say that now?
He doesn't, but it's a fact.
Well, Tom Holland wrote the book called Dominion, where he's an atheist secularist who said that we all have a Christian inheritance, whether you like it or not.
That's absolutely right.
Absolutely. Bill Maher believes in free speech. He believes in innocent until proven guilty.
Those are all Christian values.
Christian values, and I wanted to explore years ago why the founding fathers decided upon these amendments to the Constitution and the framework as it was. And you learn a lot about how the Bible influenced their views of what is just and moral.
And so just to, at the surface reading, you might say, oh, Christians aren't supposed to fight back against tyranny. Exodus 1, the midwives to the Hebrews, they disobeyed the order of Pharaoh, where they said, throw all the babies in the river. They said, no, we're not going to do that. And God said, dealt well with them, it says in Exodus 1. Daniel 6, Daniel disobeyed the order, says, you can't pray anymore. He says, nope, I'm going to keep praying. And he opened up the window and prayed proudly, and it ended up in the lion's den. In Acts, it says, you obey God, not man. So look, throughout Christianity, we have seen, honestly, one of the most successful movements against tyranny are when Christians are brought to a breaking point. Christians can be very agreeable, and then as soon as that snaps, disobedience to tyrants is obedience to God.
I want to shout out Seamus real quick when he said you would be the most difficult man to conquer, and this is exactly why I think there is such a tremendous push against anything that is related to Christianity, because these are people who follow God, who obey God, and you need someone to be beholden to a man, because a man can change the rules at any moment.
That's right.
Yeah, well, and so you guys, I know you mentioned you're coming at it from a Protestant perspective. I'm the resident Catholic here, so I have a different perspective on the church, but I will say part of the reason I appreciate you so much and the things that you've said on air is because even though you're an Episcopalian, you're somehow like the most Catholic commentator on air. I find the things that you say about like economic justice and also social conservatism tend to line up very closely with the political values that I have as a Catholic. But I would say that, of course, as Christians, we should be good citizens and obey civil authorities when they are not asking us to do something evil. But as soon as you're commanded to do something evil, you have to resist that.